There's a kind of person you never forget. The one who loved you intensely on Monday and treated you like a stranger by Friday. The one who lied so smoothly you doubted your own memory. The one who needed to be the center of every room. You probably called them crazy. They might have had a personality disorder, and almost nobody actually understands what that means. Let's fix that. A personality disorder isn't a mood that comes and goes like depression or anxiety. It's the shape of the personality itself, a deep, lasting pattern in how someone thinks, feels, and relates to other people that started in childhood or adolescence and quietly bent everything that came after. It doesn't feel like an illness to the person who has it. It feels like just being them. That's what makes these so hard to see and so hard to change. Psychiatrists sort the main ones into three clusters: the odd ones, the dramatic ones, and the anxious ones. A few more sit outside the official list but show up constantly in real life. Same story underneath every time. A personality that formed around a wound and never quite straightened back out. Paranoid. Paranoid personality disorder turns the entire world into a threat that hasn't shown its hand yet. The brain treats trust as a danger, so it stops handing it out. People with this disorder assume everyone has a hidden motive. A compliment is a setup. A favor is a debt being created. A late reply means betrayal is already in motion somewhere you can't see. You read meaning into everything, scanning faces and messages for the attack you're sure is coming, because letting your guard down even once feels like it could end you. You keep score. You remember slights for years with perfect clarity. You test the people closest to you, then take their failure of the test as proof you were right not to trust them. Jealousy runs hot in relationships because loyalty can never be proven, only suspected. The exhausting part is that the suspicion never rests, not even with people who've never done anything but love you. This isn't being careful, it's living inside a courtroom where everyone is already guilty and the verdict never changes. Schizoid. Schizoid personality disorder is what genuine indifference to other people looks like from the inside. Not shyness, not fear, just an absence of the pull toward connection that quietly runs almost everyone else's life. People with this disorder don't crave friendship, romance, or approval. Solitude isn't a wound they're nursing, it's where they feel most like themselves. You watch other people chase relationships the way you might watch them chase a hobby you simply don't share, with mild curiosity and no urge to join. Praise doesn't lift you. Criticism doesn't sting much either. Emotions stay turned down low, like a radio playing in another room you never bother to walk into. The world reads this as cold, damaged, or broken and keeps trying to draw you out and fix you, but there's nothing to fix from the inside. For a schizoid person, the quiet isn't loneliness, it's relief. Schizotypal. Schizotypal personality disorder is the odd cluster turned up to its strangest. The thinking itself bends. People with this disorder hold unusual beliefs, magical thinking, the sense that random events carry secret personal messages, a conviction that they can sense or influence things other people can't. You might believe your thoughts shape the world around you. You read coincidence as a signal meant just for you. Social situations feel deeply uncomfortable, not from simple shyness, but because connecting never comes naturally and other people seem to run on rules you were never handed. Your speech can drift into tangents that make sense to you and lose everyone else. Your appearance and habits might strike people as eccentric. It sits right on the edge of schizophrenia without ever fully crossing over. You're not detached from reality. You're standing slightly to the side of it, seeing patterns that no one around you can confirm. That's the odd cluster. Now the dramatic one, the disorders built around emotion turned up far past the safe setting. Antisocial. Antisocial personality disorder is the one pop culture calls the psychopath, and the one it gets the most wrong. The core isn't violence, it's a missing alarm, conscience. People with this disorder don't feel the guilt, remorse, or empathy that quietly steers everyone else away from hurting people. You can lie without the small flicker of tension most people can't suppress. You can hurt someone and move on by lunch without a backward glance. Rules feel like suggestions written for other people who aren't sharp enough to see around them. Consequences register as obstacles to manage, not lessons to absorb. Charm comes easy because reading and steering people is simple when you're not weighed down by actually feeling for them. Not everyone with this disorder is a criminal. Many just leave a quiet trail of used up, confused people behind them for years. But the wiring is real. Somewhere in the brain, the part that's supposed to flinch when you cause harm simply doesn't fire. Borderline. Borderline personality disorder makes your emotions feel like a storm you can't escape and can't predict. The brain struggles to regulate feeling, so emotions that hit other people as waves hit you as tsunamis. A cancelled plan, an unanswered text, a tone you can't quite read, and you're spiraling into despair or rage within seconds with almost no middle ground to land on. The center of all of it is a bone-deep terror of abandonment. You cling to people desperately, then push them away before they can leave you first. Someone is perfect one moment and worthless the next, and you genuinely can't hold both truths at once. Your sense of who you are shifts depending on who you're standing next to because there's no stable version underneath. Impulsivity strikes without warning, spending, quitting, leaving, lashing out, just to release the unbearable pressure building inside. People call you dramatic or manipulative. Inside you're drowning, and every small thing honestly feels like life or death. Histrionic. Histrionic personality disorder runs on a desperate, constant need to be seen. Attention isn't a want, it's oxygen. When the eyes in the room drift somewhere else, something close to panic quietly sets in. People with this disorder perform, emotions turned theatrical, reactions amplified, charm and appearance used to keep the spotlight from ever moving away. You feel uncomfortable, almost erased when you're not the center of things. Relationships feel far more intimate and significant than they actually are to the other person. Your feelings arrive loud and fast and fade just as quickly, leaving the people around you unsure what was ever real. The performance isn't exactly fake. It's a survival reflex from somewhere deep that learned, early, that attention was the only proof of being worth anything at all. Underneath all the drama sits a much quieter fear, that without the show, no one would bother to look at you at all. Narcissistic. Narcissistic personality disorder is the single most misused word on this entire list. Real narcissism isn't loving yourself too much, it's almost the opposite. A self-image so fragile that it needs constant defending. People with this disorder build a grand, polished version of themselves and then spend their entire life protecting it from cracks. You need admiration the way other people need air, because underneath the grandiosity sits a sense of self-worth that could shatter at any moment. Criticism doesn't just sting, it threatens total collapse, so it gets met with rage, contempt, or icy dismissal. Empathy runs thin because other people register mostly as mirrors, there to reflect you back at a flattering angle. You exaggerate, you compare, you quietly keep score of a status competition nobody else even knows is happening. From the outside, it looks like pure arrogance. From the inside, it's a wound dressed up as a crown, permanently terrified that someone will look closely and notice it was always just a wound. That's the dramatic cluster. Now the anxious one, the disorders built around fear instead of fire. Avoidant. Avoidant personality disorder is social anxiety grown into the architecture of an entire life. The fear of rejection becomes so total that the safest possible move is to never risk it at all. People with this disorder want connection badly. They're not indifferent like the schizoid, but the terror of being judged, criticized, or humiliated outweighs the longing every single time. You assume people will dislike you before you've even spoken. You replay conversations for hours, hunting the one thing you said wrong. You turn down invitations you desperately wanted to accept, then lie awake aching over the closeness you missed. Real intimacy feels impossible without absolute certainty you won't be rejected, and that certainty never arrives, so the world slowly shrinks around you. The disorder quietly convinces you that the small, safe, isolated life is protecting you, while it steadily takes away everything you actually wanted. Dependent. Dependent personality disorder is the terror of standing on your own 2 feet. The brain treats being alone as being fundamentally unsafe, so it attaches itself to other people completely. People with this disorder need others to make their decisions, supply constant reassurance, and carry the responsibility they're too frightened to hold themselves. You go along with things you don't want, agree with opinions you don't share, because disagreement might mean abandonment. When one relationship ends, you're already searching frantically for the next, not out of love, but out of dread of the empty gap. Independence doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like being left alone to drown. You shrink yourself smaller and smaller to stay needed, because being needed feels like the only thing keeping the other person from walking out the door. Underneath all of it is a belief that took root long ago, that you simply cannot survive on your own. Obsessive-Compulsive Personality. Obsessive-Compulsive Personality disorder sounds like OCD, but it's an entirely different creature. There are no intrusive thoughts and no rituals to quiet them, just a rigid, all-consuming need for control, order, and perfection. People with this disorder live by rules, lists, and standards that no one can actually meet, including themselves. You can't delegate because nobody else will do it correctly. You can't finish projects because they're never quite perfect enough to let go of. Work swallows relationships and free time whole. Flexibility feels like failure. Rest feels like guilt you have to earn back. You're convinced there is one correct way to do everything, and falling short of it is genuinely unbearable. From the outside, it can look like discipline, even something admirable. From the inside, it's a cage, built brick by brick from the belief that if everything were just controlled tightly enough, then nothing could ever go wrong. That's the official 3 clusters, but 2 more patterns show up everywhere in real life, even though psychiatry keeps them just off the main list. Passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive personality, also called negativistic personality, is resistance that never says its own name. The anger is real, but it can never come out the front door, so it leaks out the back. People with this pattern agree to things they have no intention of doing. They say yes and mean no, then express the no through delay, forgetting, sulking, and quiet sabotage. You feel chronically misunderstood and underappreciated, certain the world asks too much of you while giving you too little credit. Direct confrontation feels impossible, even dangerous, so the protest goes underground. You miss the deadline you resented. You forget the favor you never wanted to do. You hand someone a compliment with a small barb buried inside it. From the outside, it reads as flaky, stubborn, or quietly hostile. Inside, it's the only way a person who never learned to say no out loud has found to push back against a world that feels unfair. Depressive. Depressive personality isn't the same as depression, the episode that comes and eventually lifts. It's a permanent lens. Gloom isn't something that visits this person now and then. It's the color the world has been painted in from the very start. People with this pattern are habitually joyless, serious, and quietly convinced that things will turn out badly because in their experience, they usually have. You judge yourself harshly and constantly, keeping a running inventory of your own inadequacy. You expect the worst and feel a grim, private satisfaction when it arrives, because at least you weren't fooled by hope. Pessimism feels like clear sight, not distortion. Pleasure feels slightly suspect, like a setup for the disappointment that's surely coming. Other people find you draining or cold without realizing this is simply your baseline, not a bad mood you're choosing to have. There was never a sunnier version waiting underneath. For a depressive personality, the heaviness isn't an episode, it's just the weather they've always lived in. Here's the thread running underneath all 12. Not one of these is a person simply choosing to be difficult. Every single pattern started as protection, a mind doing whatever it had to do to survive something, and then never learning how to stop once the danger was gone. Understanding that doesn't excuse the real harm these patterns can cause to the people around them, but it does change what you're actually looking at. Not a villain, a person shaped by a wound, running software they never chose to install, and mostly don't even know is running. If you found this useful, drop the topic you want me to explain next down in the comments. I'll read them, and the best ideas become the next video.